that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder hope gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Energy Week with George Harvey and Tom Fennell. This is Tom Fennell.
Hello.
The famous Tom Fennell. And I am the infamous George Harvey, I think. Okay. I think I'm George Harvey.
Get this arrow in the right place, everybody will see what you look like.
There you go. And every day I go looking for news relating to energy and climate change. And I find a bunch of pieces which I put up on my blog, geoharvey.wordpress.com. And Tom and I go through the ones that we think are the best for the week at the end of the week. And so I'm just going to start into this, starting last Thursday, which was January 15th, an opinion piece from the Market Oracle. Why the smart money is betting on renewable energy. Brewing solar power boom. The price of oil may be down for a while, but the decline in the price of renewable energy means last year's investment brought about double the amount of energy capacity that it did only 4 years earlier. So
Wall Street's waking up.
Wall Street is waking up, exactly. But also, the price of renewables is going down. And you know, the year before and the year before that, there were minor declines in the investment, and each year the amount of capacity that was added for that investment was significantly higher than it was the year before.
Well, the takeaway from this one is that solar investment was rising by 25%. Wind power was rising. This investment now, rising by 11%.
Yep.
And it accounted for a third of all investment in 2014. I think they mean all investment in energy. I think they mean all.
Yes, but even so,
but that's a significant change.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Energy efficiency in electric vehicles rose 10%, including the $2.3 billion raised by Tesla Motors. Now they're attracting some money.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
And on the downside, this is the downside of renewables, biofuels investments fell, and biomass and incinerator projects fell.
Well, you know, I'm not surprised that biomass fell when the price of oil was going down, because there's a
closer link.
Closer
link. They compete more directly.
Right. Okay, from Renews, we got this. This is an interesting one that really is kind of more of the same. German offshore wind power had 258 turbines, totaling 1,049.2 megawatts as 2014 ended. This is more than double what there had been the previous year. So they installed more turbines in 2014 than they had at the beginning.
Up until that time.
But this is the interesting thing. At the end of 2014, they had 258 offshore turbines, but they had an additional 268 turbines that have been installed, and they haven't been hooked up yet.
Now, the submarine cable guys better get moving.
Yeah, better get moving. I got to tell you, I don't think hooking up offshore wind turbines is exactly a trivial job, but even so.
No, but it's not rocket science.
Yeah. This means they're going to have...
It's just going to take time.
Yeah, they're going to have probably all of those turbines hooked up this year. And that'll, bring them up to more than double this year again. And that is totaling 1,218.1 megawatts. So they're doing a lot of stuff here.
Well, they're ready to say they got a gigawatt out there. It's out there, but it isn't completely hooked up yet.
No, they have a gigawatt. They have a gigawatt.
The gigawatts are already working.
The gigawatt is already working. They got 1.2.
So they got another gigawatt.
They got another 1.2 gigawatts ready to hook up. Okay, renewable energy focus. gave us this. The Obama administration is announcing a series of steps to cut methane emissions from the gas and oil sector by 40% to 45% from 2014 levels by 2025, encompassing both common sense standards and cooperative engagement with states, tribes, and industry to put us on a path toward a 2025 goal. So
I got the same sentence twice.
Same sentence twice. Okay.
Here's the administration's goals, though, up there.
What's that? Those are the goals?
Those are the administrative actions, according to this article.
Okay. Yeah. And anybody who can read fast can read fast. But
well, I'll read them real quick because
okay,
there's
you do
a few of them. Propose and set common sense standards for methane and ozone-forming emissions from new and modified sources. So they're going to set some standards for what they know is going on and is going to happen.
Yeah.
New guidelines to reduce volatile organic compounds, which are ozone-forming pollutants from existing oil and gas systems.
Yeah.
Okay, they're out there, and when they oxidize, they become ozone. Or,
yep.
Yeah, they become ozone, they become smog.
Yeah.
Consider enhancing leak detection and emissions reporting. Well, that's a biggie. There's a lot sneaking out of it.
There's a lot sneaking out of the ground. When they start fracking, they have methane.
They let it go.
They have methane just coming up through the soil.
Yeah. Well, no one can see it, no one can smell it, so it's not happening.
Yeah, that's right.
Lead by example on public lands. Well, that's within their capability. Reduce methane emissions while improving pipeline safety. Well, that sounds good. I'd like to see them do it. Drive technology to reduce natural gas losses and improve emissions quantification. Well, that's basically the same thing we just said. Modernize natural gas transmission and distribution infrastructure. And release a quadrennial energy review. I think that means every 4 years.
Yes. Yep.
Well, they're good goals. They're good actions.
Yes, they are.
Let's see if this is more than just talk.
Well, you know, one of the problems that comes to mind as you've been reading this is that there are scientists out there who say that natural gas is more polluting than coal. And the reason is because of the methane that leaks into the
all the sneaky stuff.
Sneaky stuff. Okay. From Clean Technica, Friday, January 16th, we got this one. The prices of natural gas prices. I did well on that, didn't I? Natural gas prices and electric power. Yeah, right. So did I. Natural gas prices and electric power are not connected, as a graph from Deutsche Bank comparing them reveals. It shows that while natural gas prices in the U.S. have fallen 88% since 2008 from a peak of $13 per million BTUs to a low of $2 per million BTUs, customer electricity prices have risen 20% over the same period.
As the next sentence in the article said, the conservative press, the Murdoch media in particular, has hallelujah this fall in gas prices as a great gift to the people in the form of cheaper electricity.
Yeah, well,
except this hasn't happened.
It's a great gift that never arrived.
Now, there's an interesting picture there. If you look at the electricity prices, they're up and down, up and down, up and down, all along the bat, and that's seasonal.
Yes.
There's more demand in the summertime than there is in the winter.
Right.
And it's also interesting, the graph on the bottom is the natural gas prices, and it's by month.
Yeah.
And it generally seems that the gas peaks at the same exact time that the electricity hits bottom. And I guess that's because in this country we don't use a lot of electricity for heat.
Yes. Yeah.
Gas is much more preferable.
Well, you know, and there are a lot of things about this natural gas thing that are very sneaky. And one of them, it's not like they did this on purpose, but one of them is the fact that the gas prices have gone down, 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 but in some parts of the country they haven't gone down at all. And the reason is because they just don't have the infrastructure to deliver this stuff.
To get them there. Eastern Massachusetts is one of those places.
And in other parts of the world, the price of natural gas has not declined in many places because of precisely the same kind of thing.
Situation.
Yeah. Okay. Next, from Click Green, America's clean energy economy is celebrating. Hoo-hoo. A new report shows the solar industry's explosive growth is creating new, highly skilled jobs at a rate nearly 20 times faster than the overall economy. 1 out of every 78 new jobs created in the U.S. over the past 12 months was created by the solar industry.
That doesn't sound like much. 1 out of 78?
1 out of 78.
But the installation jobs are good paying jobs.
They're good paying jobs, and
you got
know,
a guy running around on your roof up there, you got to pay him.
That's right. They're not. They don't pay as well as nuclear engineers, but
No, but for an average guy with a pickup truck, that's a decent job.
that's a decent job. And 1 out of 78 jobs. Well, how many of those jobs that were created were restaurant jobs, or how many of them are attorneys, or how many of them are
I'd
librarians?
say a lot of them are restaurant jobs making less than minimum wage plus tips.
Yes. Yeah, I've heard
I
of
mean,
restaurant.
they had to have been.
I've heard of restaurant jobs where the employee had to pay the employer for the job because of the tips.
I haven't heard that one yet.
Because of the tips.
Well, if the tips are good enough, I guess
Yeah.
it's worth it. But
Yeah. Okay. If we must go on, Renewables Biz says Florida business and property owners would be able to sell a limited amount of solar energy under a ballot initiative for a constitutional amendment rolled out Wednesday by a coalition, Floridians for Solar Choice, that brings together free market conservatives, retailers, and alternate energy supporters. We're talking
Well, this
about
is very interesting,
the
'cause
full
this is the
political
Tea Party
spectrum.
guys.
Yeah, this is Tea Party.
they're the leaders.
It's-
They're pushing it.
Libertarians.
Yeah.
It's right wing conservative Republicans. It's left wing liberal Democrats. It's people of all political stripes getting together and saying, we want to be able to do this. This is something we should be able to do because we are free Americans.
Well, they don't call Florida the Sunshine State for nothing. But the administration down there has not been really pushing this stuff at all. And these guys are saying, we're not.
Why not? Exactly. and the utility in Florida is dead set against it.
Yeah.
From one, or at least one of the big utilities. I don't know what the utility situation in Florida is, but if you think about solar, it's very disruptive. And the reason it's very disruptive is because the big baseload nuclear and coal burning power plants, they have to run all night just to be able to give you power during the daytime. That means they're losing money at night.
Yeah.
So they can make up for it in the daytime. And guess what happens in the daytime? When the demand is at its peak,
You
the
got
sun is
solar.
shining.
Yeah.
And that is like saying, we're going to take your best hours out of your day. And that's
Yeah.
what solar does.
Yeah.
And when they talk about the grid being disrupted and things like that, that's what they mean. They mean that the sunshine is happening at a time when their profits are highest, and they
Yep,
want to keep
yep.
those profits.
They want to keep them. Well, I can't say I blame them, but
Yeah, well.
they're fighting progress.
They're fighting. Yeah, this is like, that old story. It keeps coming to mind whenever I hear this about the Persian emperor who got mad at the sea and he had his henchmen go down and whip it. And it destroyed his navy. They're whipping the sea. That's what they're doing. Okay, Saturday, January 17th. Windpower displaced 579 million pounds of coal and gas imports. This is just the imports. 579 million pounds. And I'm going to guess that's probably a little over $800 million.
That's probably pretty close.
Yeah, in the UK in 2013, increasing resilience, according to Cambridge Econometrics. Coal imports were reduced by an estimated 4.9 million tons, that is TONNES, and gas by 1.4 billion cubic meters. Mitras, that is how they spell it. Some 56% of the nation's gas supplies and 79% of its coal are imported. This from Renews. They're getting off their addiction slowly.
Well, they have the resources, so
They do.
let them use it.
Yeah, they have
It's
a lot
also
of.
interesting here that the administration isn't very fond of it, but the people are.
The people are
And the
now.
local municipalities and
This is something I can't
shires,
figure out.
whatever they are.
The administration wants to use higher cost sources of power. They want to have nuclear power. They want to have offshore wind. The only reason I can figure why they would want to do that is to benefit big businesses.
Well, I think I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
And the reason why they want to benefit big business is because of contributions.
Yes, of course. And this is one of the things that, solar power is extremely democratic. Ordinary people can own solar arrays in the UK, just as they do here. And wind power is much more democratic in Europe than it is in the United States so far, because people in towns and villages and so forth form co-ops, and they'll put up wind turbines. And the people who buy in, or the municipality that buys in, will profit from the fact that there's a wind turbine there. And this is why we're getting into a situation where more and a higher percentage of the energy generating facilities in Germany, for example, are owned by ordinary individuals, farms, small businesses, and co-ops. And for renewable power, I think it's about 2/3 of everything that's been installed is owned by small organizations or individual people.
Well, it started back in the 1890s, I guess, with J.P. Morgan, putting together electric bond and share companies, stuff like that, where he was just heavily investing in what he saw was the future.
Yes.
And he was right.
Yes.
But what resulted was very large utilities, for the most part, and very large generating facilities.
Big business.
Big business.
And now what we've got is a situation where ordinary people are competing against big business.
Little business versus big business.
Little
and distributed power
exactly.
versus centralized
And the big
power.
business has got its political people who are their friends, and they want to make sure that the big business is healthy.
It's not going to last much longer because the economics aren't
Well,
there.
there was something that was very interesting. You and I both went to that meeting in which a fellow came down, I've forgotten his name, Dirk Shields, came down from Green Mountain Power, and he was telling us about microgrids.
Yes,
And
yes, that was right here in this building.
It was here in this building. And he told a bunch of people from Brattleboro about microgrids and how Green Mountain Power is actually working on getting microgrids for communities for a bunch of different reasons.
Well, I think they're pretty well on their way in Rutland. This is kind of their pilot project.
And he they very much want to be, if we're going to ever have a microgrid, they want to be part of the discussion going into that. But one of the things that was interesting in that was one of their reasons for wanting to be involved in that discussion about microgrids and distributed power is because they believe that the current, what he called legacy business plan of or legacy utility plan is really kind of doomed.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement with that. I've said the same thing in different words.
Absolutely. So should we go on?
Yeah, we might as well. We're heading to Scotland again.
Heading to Scotland. Scotland. Am I jumping ahead of the game here? I am. Okay, Scotland's rural electricity network is to receive its most significant upgrade in decades after Perth-based utility SSE accepted a new £1.118 billion funding proposal for the project. What's the project? It is an SSE it's a subsea transmission link going from Caithness to Moray, carrying 1.2 gigawatts.
There it is up on the map. There's a picture of Scotland there, and Ireland, and Norway, and you can see the blue lines is Caithness to Moray.
Yeah.
I don't know which side of which is which.
Well, it doesn't really matter.
That's up there near John O'Groats.
John O'Groats, okay. There you go.
That's the most northerly part of Great Britain.
Okay.
Okay, and it's up there in the upper corner of Scotland there.
This is going to take renewable power from the northernmost part of Scotland and bring it down to the grid at the southern parts where
more accessible, it's closer to the border.
Yeah. And this is really good for the people who live in various places. They've got submarine links that are going to the Orkneys and to the Hebrides and
Yeah,
stuff like
they're
that.
hooking up a lot of stuff up
And
there.
that is providing jobs offshore, you know,
This particular cable is 100 miles long.
100 miles.
I mean, not all of it's undersea, some of it's
Yeah.
under land, but I was reading the article, and
Yeah.
the cable ships that lay these cables, they're amazing.
Yeah,
They are actually amazing.
Yeah.
How do you get 100 miles of cable on a ship?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Well, the answer is you got to do it in pieces. They have to splice it on board the ship
Yeah,
and connect it.
yeah,
And they wind up, you know, you're not going to have junction boxes under the
Right.
sea there.
Yeah.
So this is one continuous length under the sea that's probably 80 miles long.
wow. Yeah,
It, as you've heard me say, I used to be in this business, and 80 miles was far beyond the imagination when I was in it.
you know, it's funny. My older brother worked on a cable laying ship.
Oh, did he? Oh, yeah.
And he said that they actually laid a cable that functioned, and I don't know what it was, at a depth of something like 14,000 feet or.
Well, in order
Just
to get
way down in
from
the
here
bottom
to
of it.
there in some places
Yeah.
of the world, they got to go
really,
way down.
really far down.
Because these things do lay on the bottom.
Yeah.
They're
Yep.
not hanging there in the middle.
Yep.
Well, the original cables were telegraph cables. And they were putting them there
Right.
150 years ago.
Yes.
Well,
that's
maybe not 150, but certainly 100.
pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty close. They were if they weren't putting it there, they were at least talking about it.
Yeah.
And that was a big deal when those first transatlantic cables went in.
Oh, it was. That was quite a bit made a lot of news.
It did indeed. You know, I remember, and some of our younger watchers might find this very difficult to believe, having a girlfriend who was in London. Actually, as they look at my old gray locks or white locks, they might find it easy to believe. And I wanted to call her, and the first 3 minutes of the phone call cost $17.50.
Wow. Yeah, I
And,
can believe it.
You know,
that was then.
that was then, this is now. Yeah.
It's
So-
only $16.95.
No, I think actually you could do it for like 10 cents.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
There's a lot of.
Depending on your plan, you could do it for free. Okay, going on, BillMoyers.com. The Cuban government wants to make Granma province 100% renewably powered as a model for the rest of the island. They
Well,
are
here's a
well on their
picture.
way.
Here's a picture of Cuba.
That shows
and
Granma.
there on the right is Granma Province.
In 2013, Renewables supplied 37% of all the energy consumed in Granma province.
Well,
And
the story
currently,
here of Granma. Well,
Okay.
I'll let you finish.
It currently has 3,664 renewable energy systems in operation. These are small, and there's lots of
They're
them.
small, but they're renewable, and some of them are so small they're like bicycle generators, run by a little stream or something like that. I was
Isn't that
reading
cool?
about this.
Oh, that is cool.
Well, Cuba, because of the embargo, has been forced to do a lot of innovative things. Individuals are doing these things
Innovative
out of
things.
need.
Yes,
You can't hook up to the grid because the grid isn't there.
right.
And I want some power. I'm going to start running it with my bicycle, but I get tired of running it by my bicycle. But there's that little stream there.
Run a little. You know, what this reminds me of is during the war that they had in the previous Yugoslavia, where they had, I think it was Bosnia-Herzegovina, there was a war going on. But it was one of those conflicts that they had, and somebody was describing how he had seen people in a local town. They had no power, but they wanted to get electricity at least to supply them with certain things, such as a radio connection, so that they could get news of what was going on, and possibly a few other things. And this was taken care of by a local fellow with a little bit of electrical experience who took a motor out of a washing machine and used it to produce a generator in a local stream. Okay. Next from Platts, Michigan's Governor Rick Snyder says he wants to look into weaning the state off coal-fired generation altogether. Currently, Michigan sources about 50% of its power from coal-fired plants, but Snyder told the Michigan Conservative Energy Forum, that it now is the time to look at long-term transition away from coal.
Now, he himself is on the conservative side, isn't he?
I don't know, but it's
Yeah,
altogether
I think
possible.
he is.
I can tell you that
It's more of what we were just talking about in Florida.
Michigan's approach to energy is very different from Ohio's.
Uh-huh.
And I think that Michigan is going to benefit from renewable power in a way that Ohio is not, because Ohio isn't pursuing it.
Well, I do know from stuff that I've read probably about it on this show is the Upper Peninsula of Michigan has a lot of wind.
Well, the Thumb does too.
Does it? Yeah.
That's a real. There's a lot of wind power in that area too.
Well, what I found interesting about the Upper Peninsula, some guys made a business out of wind tours.
Yes.
He's got a bus and he's taking people around to see windmills.
Yeah.
So much for driving tourists
away. Absolutely. There was a poll that was done of people who had gone to Cornwall for holidays on their experience there relative to wind turbines. And there's a lot of wind turbines in Cornwall. And they found that for every person who objected to seeing the wind turbines on holiday, there were 3 who found them attractive. Mm-hmm. So
now Cornwall is like the southeast part of
southwest part of the UK.
UK, yeah.
It's a different land.
Well,
with
they're
different people.
They're Celts, not Germans.
Yes.
And they speak Cornish, which is a Celtic language.
Actually, they don't.
Celtic. Well, the people don't anymore.
Yeah, not anymore.
It's like the Isle of Man. There's about 3 people left who speak it.
In both places. Actually, there are speakers in both places. But both of the languages, the Cornish and Manx, went extinct.
Kind of obsolete.
Yeah, they went extinct.
Yeah.
And the Cornish language, they didn't even have any idea exactly of what it sounded like, because it went extinct before 1800. But the Manx language went extinct recently enough that they had a lot of recordings of it. And so
they know what it sounded like.
Yeah, they know what it sounded like, and the Manx have started teaching their children, and now there are native Manx speakers again, because the children have been raised in the households where only Manx was spoken.
As you know, I've been going to Ireland every couple of years on an archaeological project, and the last time I was there, we were talking to a guy who had a boat because we were trying to get out to one of the islands.
Yes.
And as it turned out, the weather was just not propitious. It was too choppy and stuff like that. But we were in a part of Ireland where Gaelic is spoken widely.
Yes.
Okay, and this guy was totally bilingual.
Yes.
And he talked about him and his buddies got into one of those old, they're tarred canvas covered boats now. They used to be skins.
Yes.
And they made the rounds of Gaelic speaking communities in Ireland, Scotland, and Man.
Yeah.
And they were able to communicate.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's not the same exact language,
Not exactly
but they still
the same.
were able
Yes,
to
I've
communicate.
heard that before, that a person who's a fluent speaker of Irish Gaelic can speak with a person who
Probably a lot of gestures going on.
probably a lot, yeah.
But I found that very interesting, and he included Manx, because they did go to the Isle of Man.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
I'm sure it was all set up so that they had these guys meeting them.
Yep.
And it's also interesting that in these countries, the people who still speak the old language are on the shore. They're in the seafaring villages.
Oh, sure.
Fishing villages.
Yeah, yeah. And in Ireland in particular, well, Ireland and Scotland both, a lot of that is in the western part of the countries.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Probably all of it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, let's keep going.
Well, did we? Yeah, we had this one up. Okay.
Okay.
You're back on camera.
And we are up to Sunday,
January 18th.
the January 18th. European power sector emissions fell by 8% in 2014, and electricity consumption fell by 2.7%. 8% fall in emissions, 2.7% fall in electric consumption. These are fantastic numbers across 28 member states of one of the most influential power blocks in the world. This is according to Sandbag, which is dedicated to shining light on tracking emissions trading in the EU. And Sandbag coming up with this is really interesting because they're after the people who are cheating on their numbers.
Are they really? Yeah, that's what it says here, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're dedicated to shining light on tracking emissions
That's
trading.
right. This is from Clean Technica.
Well, this article I found very, very confusing because there's a lot of graphs in it.
Oh yes, it was difficult, and you know.
But this one here is easier to understand, and it shows the electricity consumption versus GDP.
Yes.
And GDP has been going up, and electricity has been going down, almost a mirror image.
Yes, and there are many, many reasons for this. One of them is efficiency. The people who have got the money coming in to buy them will buy LEDs and get rid of their last remaining incandescent bulbs. One of the reasons why this is happening is because people are, for example, insulating their houses and air sealing them and putting in triple pane windows and things like that. But another reason is because modern technology requires less power. Computers require less power in terms of what they can do. I mean, you know, I'm working on a laptop here, which consumes very little power compared to, you know, this thing is 10,000 times as powerful as the first computer I worked with, which required 3 air conditioners. So
This is progress.
this is progress.
This is progress.
Utilities-me.com. I'm not sure what that means. You know, I read that as utilities-main, but
No, it was Middle East.
Middle East.
Yep,
Glad
Middle
you
East.
got it. I
Yep.
should have realized. I should have remembered. I probably noticed that myself. A report from the International Renewable Energy Agency, renewable power generation costs in 2014, concludes that biomass hydropower, geothermal, onshore wind are all competitive with or cheaper than coal, oil, or gas-fired power stations, even without financial support and despite falling oil prices.
Why am I not surprised?
Well, because you've been paying attention to the news.
I've been paying attention to you. You're doing research.
The people, the world is full of people who think that I can't afford to buy solar array for my house. It's too expensive.
Yeah.
And what they don't realize is here we are in the state of Vermont, where you can go to VSECU or NeighborWorks of Western Vermont with the help from Green Mountain Power, and they'll say, sure, we're going to set you up.
Well,
and you can get yourself, you can go to any of a variety of solar installers, and you can go into a community thing, or you can be part of a solarized thing, or you can just have it put on your roof, and it winds up that you spend less every month on the financing that you did for your solar array than you would for the electricity.
well, the word is getting out. People
word
are
is getting
starting
out.
to realize this is true.
Yes.
And they're saying, you know, instead of going to Florida this winter, let's put up a piece of solar panel.
Yes.
You know, that kind of stuff.
And
We'll get the money back. We'll go to Florida next year.
That's right. That's right. That is right. Okay. Next from Clean Technica, economic evaluation of U.S. federal climate policies hinges on a social cost of carbon estimate of $37 per metric ton of CO2 in 2013. Unfortunately,
social cost is a concept that we have to realize more about.
Yeah, let's get into that.
It's been ignored
Yep.
by the people who wanted it to be ignored.
Right. Unfortunately, each metric ton of carbon dioxide emitted into the atmosphere causes about $220 in economic damages, according to Stanford researchers, a staggering economic problem.
And who pays for that?
The poor kid who's got asthma, or the parents of the poor kid who's got asthma.
But the investor doesn't pay.
The investor does not pay for this. The investor is allowed to dump junk in your backyard, and you have to clean it up.
That's
basically what it
a
comes
good
to.
analogy.
And if you want to know what that means, $220 per metric ton. Tom, do you remember what a metric ton is? Is it 2,200?
It's like 2,200. It's 1,000 kilograms.
It's 1,000 kilograms. I think. Yeah, it's,
kilograms, 2.2 pounds.
Right.
2,200.
So $220 per metric ton is $200 per English ton.
Yeah.
Okay,
Why did they say that?
$200 because they're boneheads. $200 per English ton translates to 10 cents per pound. Now that means if you use, and 1 gallon of gasoline makes 20 pounds of carbon dioxide.
But
when you burn
you
it.
don't weigh it. It goes off into the
It
air.
goes off into the air. That means that if you use 1 gallon of gasoline or 1 gallon of fuel oil, the cost of that to your neighbors, to the nation, to the world is that is 20 pounds. So that's about $2.
And that's about what you're paying for a gallon of gasoline these days.
These days, yeah, that's right. And it would make sense to add that cost onto the cost of the fuel, do the same thing with coal, do the same thing with natural gas. And you know, I'm gonna tell you, I've invented a term for this. It's called a carbon tax.
Oh, how clever.
Isn't that clever? Thank you, Bernie Sanders.
Well,
Bernie Sanders didn't invent it either, but
in short, these guys have been getting away with murder for years.
yes, literally with murder.
Literally,
7 million
yeah.
people a year are dying because of air pollution,
Yeah.
according to the World Health Organization.
So it's a real cost.
Yes.
And we're starting to wake up to the fact that it is a real cost. It's
Yes.
trying to figure out how to get it paid for.
How to get it paid for, and you know that it is not a matter of some wackadoodle person coming along and saying this is not environmentally sound. You are guilty. You should pay.
Yeah.
This is a matter of somebody saying this is what you're costing our society.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Two-
Somebody's paying for it.
$2
Somebody
for
is
every
paying for it.
gallon of oil. Someone is paying for
Yeah.
it. Someone is paying for it, and there are many places where that payment is being collected. But you know, the poster child is the kid with asthma.
This picture came from that same article.
Okay.
Now, they didn't identify it, but I think it's the Philippines after Typhoon Haiyan.
That's another thing that you know is
And here, you can't really tell how big an area is flooded
yes,
in this picture.
yes,
But you can see it's quite a flood. I mean,
Yep.
whatever this town is, let's say it's Miami Beach, it goes halfway out into the ocean.
right,
Half of the town is underwater.
right.
And that was probably the most severe typhoon ever.
Yep. But they're saying basically that the expectation is that we're going to lose a huge amount of the land, some huge percentage, something like, I don't know, 30%, 50% in Florida. We're going to
Well, I
have.
don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to wind up building walls, building dikes
they're
like
going
the
to have a
Dutch did.
heck of a wall.
Oh yeah, the government will pay for it.
Yeah, the government will pay for it. There was an upgrade to a seawall that was done at one of the nuclear power plants in Japan after the Fukushima disaster.
Uh-huh.
And the upgrade, which was raising the wall
Okay.
a certain number of feet, cost $1.5 billion. That's for a wall that's about 1.5 miles long. Now, what's it going to cost to build a seawall surrounding the state of Florida?
It's going to cost a lot of money.
It's going to cost more money than there is, I think.
Well, you might be right. I haven't done the math, but I know there's a lot of well-heeled people own a lot of really nice land in Florida.
Well, it's
and
possible.
they don't want to see it going underwater.
Yeah, it's possible to do this in a place like the Netherlands, where what you're talking about is little harbors and marshes and things like that, and you build a little wall around the thing, and then you pump it out with a wind turbine, windmill. But doing it for the state of Florida,
Well,
maybe
it's not going to happen around the whole state, but I'm sure that it's going to happen around places like Miami.
yeah, it's going to be expensive, and it's
Oh,
not
yeah.
just
It's gonna
Florida.
happen in New York.
It's going to happen in New York. It's going to happen in Boston. It's going to happen in Washington D.C. It's going to happen in. It will not happen in Chicago, probably, or
Probably
St.
not.
Louis. But you know,
Yeah, San Francisco,
San Francisco, New Orleans, you name it.
New Orleans. New Orleans, it almost happened already.
It has happened. Yes. Okay. Let's keep going.
Why not?
We've got exciting stuff here. Monday, January 19th, the Harvard Quinone Flow battery got worldwide media attention in early 2014 for its inexpensive, non-metallic electrolytes. Now, a team of developers from at Sustainable Innovations have verified Harvard's results. This success with funding from ARPA-E is cleared the way to building a prototype test battery, which, as I recall, was 3 kilowatts. This is not a big battery.
I think that's in this article, but
Yeah.
it's around there.
Yeah.
It's around there. No, this is a prototype.
This is a prototype, but what they're talking about here is a flow battery. We've
Yep.
talked about flow batteries before.
They're
where
fascinating. to me.
Fascinating, where the electrolytes flow past each other. Typically, and there's many different kinds of them, but typically these batteries, you can extract 100% of the power that's available in them, unlike a lead acid battery,
Yep.
where you can destroy the battery if you go
They
down too
basically
low.
don't wear out. You just keep
They don't wear out. You can recharge them by flowing in the opposite
floating.
direction.
Yeah.
This is and the vanadium batteries that I've been looking at, they have warranty on the battery that's 25 years, and the electrolyte, they will give you 40% on the electrolyte when you turn it back in 25 years from now.
Oh,
and
okay.
you know, but the fact that that's true tells you something about these quinone batteries. The quinone compound they're using is a natural product which is found in a bunch of different places, one of which is rhubarb.
rhubarb. That was the word I was looking for. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so these are very cheap because
So they've gotten away from the expensive vanadium
Yep.
and have gone into the relatively cheap rhubarb.
rhubarb, that's right. That's exactly
So now I
correct.
got a rhubarb battery.
That's right. Except they don't actually get the stuff from rhubarb. I don't know where they get it, but it is a
Yeah, I
it's
read
a-
about it.
They may
It's
they may
done in a lab
synthesize it.
somewhere, done in a factory,
It's
but-
probably synthesized. Okay, and
There's
that's
a takeaway from this, and this is the important part. The amount of energy can be stored in a flow battery is limited only by the size of the tanks.
that's right.
They just flow it back and forth.
That's right.
Back and
That's
forth,
right.
back-
Isn't that beautiful?
And it doesn't wear out.
And it doesn't wear out. You just need 2 pumps and a little bit of intelligence.
So this is just another example of the bright people out there thinking of ideas that
Absolutely.
are going to make a big difference
Absolutely.
in the future.
Absolutely. And the flow batteries also, you can like any other battery, you can stack them, as it were, so that you can have multiple batteries, so that you can get
Well, we showed that last week.
bigger and bigger output. Yeah,
We showed
absolutely.
that wasn't a flow battery, but it was quite stackable.
That was the Aqueon battery.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yes, it was not a flow
So there's
battery.
a lot of these guys working on
Yeah.
this. I would say each one of those stacks was about enough for a normal-sized home.
Yep. That was from PR Web. We got to keep going here. Wellspun Energy has announced fresh investment plans to consider its solar and wind capacity in India. Wellspun Energy has signed agreements with the state government of Gujarat to install 1.1 gigawatts of renewable capacity. This includes 500 megawatts of wind energy capacity and 600 megawatts of solar, that from Clean Technica.
Well-
And I'm going to read the next one.
Because they're almost
Basically
almost
the same, yeah.
They're almost the same article.
Clean Technica also supplied us with this. Sun Edison has signed yet another landmark deal in a state in India to set up large-scale renewable energy projects. Sun Edison will set up 5 gigawatts of solar and wind energy capacity in the southern state of Karnataka. This is the second such deal the company has signed, but the first to include wind energy as well. The Indians are putting in renewable power as fast as they possibly can.
That they are.
And they're
That
also
they're
putting
doing.
in, they're still putting in coal. But
Yeah.
they want to get everybody electrical power, and they're working on it. Now we've got about 15 minutes to do 6 articles, so we got to chug along
Let's
here.
start moving then.
Okay, from Tuesday, January 21st, is that right?
Tuesday the 20th.
20th. I put down the wrong date for Wednesday, the 22nd. Saudi Arabia's plans to build nuclear and solar energy projects will take about 8 years longer to complete than originally intended, according to the head of the agency overseeing the projects. In 2012, the Saudi government said it would install 17 gigawatts of nuclear power and about 41 gigawatts of solar by 2032. And I've heard all kinds of, read all kinds of articles about this, and they are somewhat in disagreement about what is actually meant. Some
Yeah.
of them said the Saudis are abandoning the solar altogether, which apparently they are not. But this
They
is,
got plenty of sun.
they got plenty of sun. This is Gulf Business News, and honestly, I kind of suspect that they're thinking about that nuclear power because nuclear power is so expensive.
I think you're right. Definitely think you're right.
Yeah,
Of course, they started planning this a long time ago.
they did indeed.
And economics were different.
The economics were different, and as a matter of fact, I don't think it was in here. It was not, but I'll mention it. Today, one of the Gulf states, and it might have been Qatar or it might have been, I don't remember which one, but they had a goal. They were putting out a contract on solar power, and when the price that they were bid came back, they decided to double the amount because the price was so low.
Wasn't that in California?
No, that was in the Gulf.
In the Middle East somewhere,
yeah,
too. Yeah,
that was in the Gulf.
Well, one of the problems they don't mention much is there's not a whole hell of a lot of water in the Arabian Peninsula.
That's right, and
you need water.
Everything needs water except solar and wind. You know, so and there was another one which was a study in which they said that the amount of water you need for solar power is basically negligible.
Yeah.
And
you got to wash them off every once in a while.
Yeah, the amount that, and in fact, you can get away with just leaving them and let the wind blow the dust away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, again, we should keep going. Click Green told us this. Fracking industry claims about job creation in the UK are wildly over-optimistic, and any job boom would be short-lived, according to a new report. It also found investment in energy efficiency and renewable energy would create 6 times as many jobs as the same level of investment in fossil fuels. And we've been telling you that.
These are the construction jobs, though.
These are construction jobs, but you know, there's an awful lot of work that has to be done. We're going to be working on these things for 20 plus years.
Well, like I said,
So
somebody's got to wash the solar panel.
Yeah, but you might as well, even though these are construction jobs, you might as well treat them as permanent jobs because
they're going to be moving from this site to the next site for the next X amount of years.
Yeah, absolutely. Then, Green Tech Lead told us Google has invested in has unveiled a new plan to invest in 2 renewable energy projects worth more than $1.5 billion, according to Forbes. The first project consists of a $76 million investment in the 300 megawatt Balco wind project in Oklahoma. The second is a 104 megawatt Red Hills solar power plant worth $150 million, and I don't see how those two figures add up to $1.5 billion. You know, these people who report money will talk about the amount of money that's saved over 10 years, the number of jobs that are created.
The numbers don't come up.
They don't come up.
Nowhere near it.
No.
Somebody didn't check, they didn't proofread it.
Well, I don't know. I think it's possible that somebody, the fine print in this has to be. Anyway.
Google's getting into this stuff big.
Getting into it.
Yeah.
They have got into it.
They're in it
up
big.
to their eyeballs in it. Yeah. Wednesday, January 22nd. I'm going to take the first of these last, if you don't mind. So I'm going to go to the one about Chile. Actually, let's just do it in the order. You've got that beautiful thing, and we can.
I got them in order, but
okay,
getting
let's
around
do it in
them
order.
no big
What
deal.
President Barack Obama described as the greatest threat to future generations is neither terrorism nor ISIS. It wasn't nuclear weapons in the hands of rogue states. Quote, no challenge poses a greater threat to future generations than climate change, end quote, said Obama in the State of the Union speech Tuesday. His message was met with scattered, muted applause.
You know, isn't the Department of Defense saying something very similar to that?
Absolutely. The Republican Party is going to have to eat crow, or they're going to have to explain to people why it is that they're telling the people in this country that they are not scientists, and so they can't say anything about whether climate change is happening. Meanwhile, the Pentagon is saying it's our biggest problem.
Yeah.
Is this American patriotism at work? Really, honest to goodness, they should be ashamed of themselves. I'm not talking about the entire Republican Party.
No, but
here.
it's politics.
I'm talking about those few people who are representing it right at the top in Washington, D.C.
It's almost religious.
It's almost religious. It's a cult is what it is. Yeah. And it's a cult that happens to be very successful in some respects because it has members who put a lot of money into the coffers. This is
That's what's
real,
happening.
honest
That's
to
really what's
goodness,
happening.
blatant, in-your-face corruption. That's what it is. And how many scientists are there who are professional climatologists or meteorologists who are publishing in peer-reviewed journals who say climate change is not happening?
It's all a plot by the New World Order.
Right. Which consists of 97% of scientists, and the only person who believes in it is a guy who's so happy to say climate change isn't happening because it will, if it were, it would destroy the economy of Russia. Really. I mean, these people should get real. And the people who back them, Koch Industries, the Heritage Foundation, and all that group, they should be held accountable. They really should be held accountable.
Well, they should. Here's some of the key points of Obama's speech.
Yeah.
China and the U.S. are the leading polluters in the world.
Yep.
That's no biggie. That's a no-brainer.
Yep.
Okay. 2015 is a pivotal point for Paris talks on climate change and setting emissions limits. Now, I don't know much about it, but they're evidently going to have talks about climate in Paris.
Yeah.
And this is a place for
And
us to get active.
They're hoping to have commitments made in
Yeah.
that, which people can
Right
be held
now, they're just talking about it, but they
Yeah.
hope to come out of here
Right.
with something definite.
to. Right.
The United States should lead. This is talk, but it's a good idea. Should lead in international efforts to produce the one planet we've got. This is factual. 2014 was the warmest year since record keeping began.
Yep.
We've talked about that.
We've
on this
talked
show.
about it.
And finally, 1 year doesn't make a trend, he said, but this does. 14 of the 15 warmest years of record have all fallen in the first 15 years of this century. We've talked about that on this
So
show,
we've
too.
broken a record. We've been at what would have been a record in the 20th century
Yeah.
every year but one
Yeah.
or two. And I don't know what that hot year was. Maybe it was hotter than any year we've had except the last two. But okay, we should get
Well,
going.
moving
on.
along.
Recharge sent us this. Chile's combined PV and wind installed capacity almost quadrupled in 2014 to about 1.2 gigawatts. Solar capacity grew from 6.7 megawatts to 362 megawatts over the year. Just think about that
I
for
don't
a
hear
minute.
much about Chile.
But from 6.7 to 362, you're multiplying this by 50.
Yeah.
There's
they're
only one
getting
way
their
they could
act
do
together.
that, and the only one way they could do that would be to bring in technical people from out of the country, because there's no way you could take people who would put in 7 megawatts and have them put in 350 in 1
No,
year.
they're bringing in outside help.
They are bringing in outside help, but they're after this. And the wind capacity grew from 330 to 836 megawatts. Chile's total installed renewables capacity of 2.2 gigawatts, and another 1.2 is expected in 2015. Chile is moving.
So they're going to increase what they now have, which has already increased drastically. By another 150% in this year.
Unbelievable.
So they're getting the
Yeah.
ball. They're getting on the ball.
And the final thing that we've got, I think you've got a video on this.
I got a little one minute video on
Okay.
it, but talk about it because it says the same damn thing.
A Montana pipeline burst and sent 50,400 gallons of oil gushing into the Yellowstone River. A massive oil spill happened in the 12-inch pipeline, which crossed Yellowstone River, rupturing Saturday about 5 miles upstream from Glendive, Montana. The state's governor declared a state of emergency.
Well,
Now you've got a video there.
Let me try and see if
I've got a
can't-
few choice words for this one.
Let's see if I can't pull the video up.
There are a couple of things that bother me about this. One of them is 50,400 gallons of oil. 1 gallon of oil is enough to pollute 5,000 gallons of oil, of water rather. So
1 gallon will
one
pollute
gallon
5,000.
of oil to 5,000. 1 gallon of oil will pollute an entire tank truck.
Wow.
Okay.
I hadn't realized
So
that.
what we're talking about here is something that would pollute 250 million gallons of oil, of water. This is a serious problem. The next thing is, and this is something that I find infuriating, there were ecologists, environmentalists who were warning about exactly this problem of that pipeline over that river bursting a year ago. And who did anything about it? Okay? And the final thing is, this is a 12-inch pipeline. My recollection, and I could be wrong, is that the Keystone XL pipeline is going to be 48 inches. 48 is not 4 times 12. It's 16 times 12.
Correct. Yeah.
So, because we're talking
When you
about
deal with
areas.
area.
And so what we're talking about here is, like, you know, enough oil to cause really, really serious damage to, for example, the Mississippi River, which is huge, but, you know, 48 inches of tar sand is not exactly kind to the environment.
Well, this is a 12-inch pipeline, and I think it's rather an old one.
Yeah,
And there's a 12-inch pipeline going through northern Vermont and most of New Hampshire.
right.
That's also old, and they're talking about running it backwards and putting oil sands
Yes, I
in
know.
it and
I
all
know.
sorts of
I
bad
know.
stuff.
I know.
And it goes under several large bodies of water.
Right.
And the same thing could happen.
Right.
Matter of fact, it's probably likely to happen.
And you know, even though the Keystone XL pipeline is going to be new when it's put in, they're saying from day one it's going to have leaks, regular leaks, because it's so big,
for
so
a couple
long.
of things, it's pressurized.
Yep.
It's effervescent, as
Yep.
you use. It's like Pepsi-Cola.
Yep.
And the second thing is highly abrasive. It's
Highly
still
abrasive.
got a lot of sand in it.
It's got sand in it. It's like running sandpaper through your pipe. How long is that going to last?
Yeah.
And they're talking about not how long it's going to be until there's a leak. They're talking about the numbers of leaks per year. So, you know, this Keystone XL thing is, somebody is asking for permission at the congressional level to cause a disaster.
Yeah, in effect.
Who's going to, you know, you had said that you thought maybe this isn't going to happen because it would be hard to finance. Who's
Yeah.
going to pay for the insurance on this?
Well, that's a very valid question. And if it ever gets happened, you can bet that the investors aren't going to pay the insurance.
They're going to have to, in order to invest, they're going to have the equivalent of Price Anderson.
Yeah,
They're
well,
going to
it's-
have
it's mostly
somebody
in
say,
Canada.
it's going to be the taxpayer who
Yeah,
pays if
yeah.
there's a problem. So,
It's mostly in Canada.
Yep.
It's a big thing for the Canadian economy, and the Canadian administration is flat out in favor of it.
yep.
So they're probably going to come up with their version of Price Anderson. But that's
Well-
only going to take care of what part of it is in
And,
Canada.
well, the other thing is, do you honestly think the people of this country are going to be willing to put up with that? I don't think they will.
Not when they take a look at the size of the bill.
No.
I don't think. I think
so.
you're right. I think when push comes to shove, the budget balance, the budget hawks are going to look at this and they're going to say,
No, I don't think it's going to happen. But I think that there are certain sectors of the Republican Party that are going to have to start getting real about the problems that we've got. And for right now, they're not doing it. They're denying things that are going to come back, and they're going to haunt them in the end.
No, push is coming to shove pretty shortly.
Pretty shortly, yep. I think we're at the end of our hour.
We're pretty darn close to it. It looks like 1 minute and 14 seconds.
Yep. So I think maybe we should just say goodbye. And I'm sorry I get so agitated about these things, but I do. Tom, on the other hand, is very level-headed.
As I said, if you had a vein right here, it'd be throbbing half the time.
I don't think so. I can still laugh. Have a nice week, and we will be back, I trust, to give you another of these shows next week. So, goodbye. We spin and we toil, we work all day, Sowing and reaping, we store goods away, so we can be dressed well on the day that we die.